I know, bro. See what happens. Yeah, I know you're beating it. I know you're winning. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, YouTube. Thanks for joining us as always. Um, yeah, markets are getting things done so far today. A few nice moves out there, which we'll go over, but nothing really to write home about. Eyes are on the consumer confidence numbers around 3 o'clock. I know I mentioned this before, but I do try and be a little bit coy on news or on trading the opens when I know that there's news coming out at 3 o'clock. It really shuts or narrows that window of opportunity to firstly find an entry to a trade, but secondly know that you're likely to get towards take profit before 3 o'clock number. Has to be pretty scalpy, I would say, to guarantee that sort of action. Otherwise, you're just kind of tossing a coin. Ultimately, if you're going to kind of run trades through these figures, just be very vigilant with your whichever brokers you're using, because sometimes the bills on news, if you stops in, if you're new to trading, they're not guaranteed, right? These levels of stops can be vastly different to what you expect depending on who you're using. So if it's a broker you're using, yeah, just be aware that you could get stiffed on this. Even with the futures market, you know, you're trading to the next, going to the next buyer, and if there are no buyers, you can get nasty fills on there too. So there's no free lunch with this. You can't just, you know, buy the dollar with a one tick stop at 2.59 and 59 seconds and hope for the best. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, just be aware around 3 o'clock. We do have some interesting numbers coming up. The consumer confidence figures have been better on the whole of late, right? Last four in a row, we've had decent figures, and they're getting, certainly the last couple have been very, very handsome indeed. This one was a big surprise actually back in December. A 6 beat on that was the biggest we've had in a little while. If you go back a little bit longer, we'd had a 9 back in October. That was worse than forecast. Sorry, in August was worse than forecast. So we do get the odd shock on this. So it is a number worth listening to. Probably, I mean, the average I think is about 3.7 on this. So you'd be looking at what, 18.5 and above, maybe on a trade 111 and below. But you might want to wait for something even bigger than that. Maybe if you got something in 120s and above, maybe below 110s, something around there would maybe start to get me interested. Still keen to see the price action as we get through it as well. But yeah, very keen to be patient today. No, this is the busiest of weeks, so maintaining that patience, I think, is sensible. So markets have been, there've been a few nice moves. Oil's had a pretty nice go. Bitcoin was one, I know we kind of briefly touched on it this morning, but Bitcoin's one that's done very nicely indeed of late. If I go to the big picture on the lead crypto, we've been pushing all the way up to levels not seen since 2021. Really nice action, to be fair to Bitcoin. It's kind of doing bull flags and pushing again. And yeah, we're in a pretty interesting place on that cryptocurrency at the moment. So yeah, that's one that's definitely had a bit of life in it today, up 4% on the day. Natural gas is something else as well that's moving. We've been in the doldrums really on natural gas for some time, and we've hit multi-year lows on the natural gas market, just nudging towards what 2020 lows. This is post-COVID, right? That's how low we are on natural gas at the moment, or were. But yeah, this is prior to that. Where are we looking? We're looking back to into the 90s to see these sort of levels that have printed recently. But we've had a little bit of a snapback, and yeah, a little gap open overnight has helped. But we've kind of pushed on as well since midday. And a nice 8% rally in the natural gas market. So again, not maybe one that people trade too much of. And on the long side, I can very much understand why, given the trend that we've had all of this year. Yeah, that's been and this isn't a bad time of year for natural gas to be cheap, right? I know I know the European natural gas market's priced slightly differently to this, but this is a time of year when a lot of natural gas is consumed. So if we can get the prices of those things down a little bit at this time of year, certainly takes the off the throat of the consumer from an inflation perspective. So next thing, let's look at the other thing, the big thing that's coming out tonight is the 7-year bond market, right? So the way to take a look at these on If you're looking on something like TradingView, maybe take a look at the yield for that market, right? If you're not too familiar with how bonds work, the way that TradingView works, you can put the country to ticker code. So in the UK, it's not UK, it's GB. If you want to do a 10-year, it'd be 10Y. That would be the UK 10-year government bond yield. If you wanted to do the German 6-month, it would be DE06M. Right. But today we have the US 7-year. 07 has to be 2. Figures in that US 07Y. So that's the 7-year bond yield tonight. What we're looking for, if we look at what happened with the 5-year yield, so this is the 5-year yield last night when we had the bond auctions at 6 o'clock, had a little bit of a pop, but gave it back pretty quickly. So this isn't the sort of action that we really want to see on the bond auctions. We'd like to see something that really gets the yields either pushing higher or selling off. And yeah, this sort of cagey price action in the 30 minutes, hour after the yields or the auction happened really isn't what we're looking for. So if you can get something that surprises the market a bit, can really get things moving, then that has a knock-on effect. High yields typically are not great for the stock market, right? So high yields typically you see lower stocks. High yields you typically see a stronger currency, right? High yields more attractive for foreign investors to loan to your government. Therefore, inflows of capital pushes the strength of that currency higher. So that's one we'll certainly be looking at later on at 6 o'clock tonight. So consumer confidence at 3, bond yields on the 7-year, so US 7Y, right? Just to be clear on that, get the 7-year yields up and keep an eye on them around 6 p.m. In general, these bond yields are worth keeping an eye on anyway, but yeah, probably more the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year are the ones that I typically look at. And something else that's been worth watching has been Nvidia in recent days and weeks, right? We've had that big push up. We've got a $2 trillion company, bigger than the Chinese market cap, bigger than the 2 biggest, bigger than everything, pretty much, bar a couple of things out there. It's been a hell of a ride for Nvidia. The AI bubble, I know Apollo were out saying that this bubble is bigger than the tech bubble that we had in the late 90s. So at some point this is going to go pop, right? But trying to pick that day is never easy. So the trend's your friend until it bends at the end, right? So just maybe do the trend your friend bit to begin with. And as much as it looks like we've had 2 down days, I know we touched on this earlier, they've actually been higher closes relative to Thursday. Friday's close was higher, even though from where it opens to where it closes, it was still higher than the previous close from Friday as of Monday night. So, and the pre-market's up a little bit too. This can lead the market around a little bit. So yeah, watch this day. The initial spike we had up in Nvidia and then turn. That ended up being the high for the S&P yesterday. So same on the Nasdaq. So just be aware this, like the tail wagging the dog a little bit with this. At levels that are interesting me, this is the option gamma. So we had the key levels. The biggest one was here yesterday at 5,100, which we didn't quite get to. Second largest up at 25, which we got nowhere near. And the third gamma, which we broke down below a couple of hours into trading, we tested that and had a nice bit of weakness into the close. And this is where the gamma was around the close. So this is kind of where we've been bouncing off today. Flirted with this a little bit, came back into it, retested it from above, and now we're looking to push on. So this to me around that 5,100 level, I think is very much in play. That will take out the high from yesterday. And who knows how high we can get. That's something on the bull case. You could be looking north, and then 50.30 was a large gamma from, there was this back on Thursday of last week, which we hadn't tagged or even got near tagging. So that's something that we will be keen to take a look at when the market comes. These gammas, we don't yet have them for today, but we should be able to get a hold of them pretty quickly in the next minute or two. So I'll sit with you after the market opens and we can going on. So we've got the S&P top left, Nasdaq top right, Dow down here on the bottom left, a little bit. A different beast. Doesn't have Nvidia in it, the Dow. So this is one that if you wanted to avoid the madness that is Nvidia at the moment, then trading the Dow Jones, it's not something I look to trade too much apart from on earnings. But if you want to trade the Dow, it might be a time that keeps you away from some of the mess that you get. Let's maybe watch Nvidia on the open as well, because this has been interesting 5 minutes generally. Let's give it the opening minute. So yeah, seeing a softness in Nvidia, and unsurprisingly, you're seeing softness to go with it. it is the third biggest company in those two indices these days. So not a surprise that it's having such a pull in either direction. So yeah, do watch this with interest. If you get some big volume either up or down or big levels which it bounces from, then that can end up being turning points for the indices too. So I know we often talk about bond yields being correlated, the dollar being correlated, the VIX, but really sometimes it's just one stock can do the whole thing. It's almost like it's almost like acting like a bit of a meme stock. Someone was mentioning to me the other day, and it very much feels that way. So let's have a look at the gamma as we see it for this morning. Oh, where are we? This is where we're looking today. So that 5100 looks like the big one again, and 5090. I mean, there are more puts in the market, but it's pretty balanced. I'd say the market at the moment. So interesting to see what happens from here. But yeah, that 5100 could well be in play later. 5090, and then yeah, it's difficult to kind of pick between the remainders of which has the biggest strikes. That looks like 1239. This one you're looking at, yeah, maybe a little bit less, a little bit bigger than that, I'd say. So maybe that 50-50 level, if you were looking at the short side, might be in play. So yeah, bear those levels in mind today. That 5100 is large gamma more often than not gets traded. So perhaps it's going to push higher towards that 5100 level. Let's see. As I say, I think this consumer confidence data at 3 will maybe be the thing that catalyzes a move if we get one. And obviously, we're looking. The news is going to take the markets higher, and normally at the moment, it's kind of good news is bad news for stocks. So you're hoping for a lower consumer confidence number, as I say, so maybe something sub 110s, and that could be the fuel that could get going, and we could start to see those 5100 levels tagged again as we go forward. So let's leave it there. I will be back with you. In fact, I won't be back with you in the morning. Jerry's on tomorrow morning, I think, on a Wednesday, but I'll see you tomorrow afternoon, or certainly on later in the week, on the YouTube as well. I think Thursday you'll hear from Jerry too. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you then. If you like the stuff, the way to sign up to get this each day. We do them around the European Opens and the US Opens every day. Then the details of how to do that are in the description below. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and